Hey there, Jimmy Roberts with Renaissance Appraisal. I just wanted to take a second to give you an introduction to this video. Unlike other videos that we do and that we've done, this video is meant to give you some insight into why I decided to be an appraiser. Appraising has been absolutely amazing to me and my family. Without it, I would have done some things that I probably really wouldn't have enjoyed, such as being in an office most days. It's just not something that I enjoy doing, and it's not really in an environment that I believe that I thrive in. Pursuing a career in the real estate appraisal industry and the real estate industry in general has allowed me to avoid that. Being a real estate appraiser has allowed me to take care of my family and my friends even in a manner that I just absolutely love. We've been able to take all types of trips. I've learned a lot. I've met some really fascinating people along the way, and I've done this in a manner I've done this in a way that was good for me. It's good for my soul even. I know that's a little woo, but it's true. It's true. I have really enjoyed my career as a real estate appraiser. By the way, when I say it like that, I'm not suggesting that my career is ending. I'm just saying that I want to give you the baseline and the basis from where I come from. Today's video, though, is going to be a little bit different, because today I'm going to actually tell you how I got started and why I got started, and even had the thought to pursue a career in the real estate appraisal industry. It really comes down to this. Back in 2000, my wife and I were newlyweds. So we've been married for just under a year, and we were looking for a place to live. After a lot of search, I don't know if you guys remember, but back in 2000, the real estate market was hot. It was very hot. It was every time if you saw a house, by the time you saw it, it was sold, and that was it. So that was the type of environment that we were in. Housing prices were rising like 5% seemingly a month. It was ridiculous. I mean, everything sold. It just did not matter. If you owned a broken down shack right adjacent to a freeway, you could sell that for top dollar. And by what I mean by top dollar, I mean a lot of money. This real estate market was absolutely fantastic. It was ridiculous. Okay, I believe Alan Greenspan characterized it later as irrational exuberance. He was probably correct, but you know, that was the time that we were in, and that's the environment that we were in. So back in 2000, my wife and I were looking to buy our first place, and we decided we wanted to get a condo. So we found a condo out in this neighborhood, and it was a very solid neighborhood, great neighbors, quiet, everything that a newlywed couple would want. Okay, so we went in and purchased the property for $180,000. Actually, that's not true. We purchased it for $181,000 because we wanted to make sure that we had bid over what they were asking to make sure that we got the property. Now, at the time, we didn't know this, but there had been no other condos that had sold for $181,000 in this subdivision. And this was a really nice subdivision, like ours. But we didn't care because we purchased the property and we lived in it for several years. I mean, I believe we lived in that property for dang near 10 years. So we had a good time. It was a wonderful place. I'm so happy that we purchased it. And there you go. So one of the things, after we purchased the property at $181,000, again, no other condominium similar to ours in this subdivision had ever sold for anything above $181,000 after that. Okay. 2 years later, interest rates dropped. When we purchased our property, interest rates were about 6.5% to 7%, and which was fine. You know, we were easily paying that. We were paying much more when we were renting. So it wasn't a big deal. So, but when interest rates dropped to that 5.5% rate, our banker gave us a call and said, hey, interest rates are lower. You might want to refinance. Made sense. Everybody else was doing it. So we did. We refinanced our mortgage. And as part of the process of refinancing our mortgage, the property had to be appraised. Now remember, this was about this time, this was 2001, 2002. So we've been in our property about 2 years. Okay. Just about 2 years. And we got the friendly neighborhood appraiser. And for lack of, to protect names and to protect people identities, we're gonna name him Dave. That was our appraiser, Dave. Well, Dave came out, did the appraisal, and appraised our property at $235,000. 2 years ago, we purchased a property for $181,000. Dave, 2 years later, came and appraised our property for $235,000. We thought we were freaking geniuses. Needless to say, the refi went through. It was just a rate and term, so it wasn't that big a deal. Refi went through, and we were just as happy as pigs in slop, as my dad would say. Okay, everything went well. We were cruising along. Then the next year happens, and it's like 2003, 2004. And if you guys remember 2003, 2004, interest rates dropped again. That's right. So we got a call from our banker. And she said, hey, interest rates have dropped again. And now we're in the like 3 3/4 to 4.25% interest rate. I mean, think about that. Now we're at like 5 1/4 now, and we can drop it down another point and a half. Psh, of course we're going to do that, right? So we set it up, but here comes another appraiser. It's not Dave. And this appraiser appraised our property at $185,000. $185,000. And this is literally 1 year after having a property appraised for $235,000. Needless to say, we thought this appraiser was an absolute idiot. They couldn't possibly know what was going on. And you know, it wasn't an issue for our refinance because we had the equity in it to do it and to get it done at the lower interest rate, but it would just be a little bit longer, a little bit more difficult process. The first one sailed through like a breeze. But for our personal sense of satisfaction, of course, we wanted our property to be appraised at $250,000 because, you know, everybody else's was. Why wasn't ours? So after doing some digging, ourselves and even our loan officer, who was the same one who did the first refinance, was like, we couldn't find Dave. We're looking around, and Dave is nowhere to be found. He's no longer working with the bank. He's no longer working with any banks. Come to find out, Dave is out of business. This was my first introduction to what happens when appraisers do shoddy work and they're kicked off a list or appraisal lists or appraisal clients. Nobody wants to deal with them anymore. Well, Dave had done thousands of appraisals for our particular lender. He had been on their appraisal panel for about a decade. He was their #1 go-to appraiser. And he was inflating values ridiculously. It was ridiculous, okay? Because once we found out that Dave was out of business, now all of a sudden we realized something was wrong with that first appraisal. So I actually went back and compared the first appraisal to the second appraisal. And I told you before, maybe I didn't, but the home we purchased was a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom 2-story attached condominium with a finished basement. Very nice unit, very well maintained, if I do say so myself. And like I said, immaculate. The community was great, everything was wonderful. But what Dave, and it had a square footage of about 1,000 square feet. Dave was comparing our 2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot condo to 2,500 square foot 3 and 4 bedroom ranch condos that were also in the same subdivision and surrounding subdivisions. Needless to say, these sold for significantly more than our 1,000 square foot condo. And in doing that and making that comparison, Dave, in my heart, I'm saying he committed fraud, but I'm not going to say that officially. I'm not going to say that he committed fraud, but you make the call. Our property was 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 1,000 square feet, and he is intentionally comparing them to 2,500 square foot ranch, 3 and 4 bedroom, 3 bathroom properties in the same subdivision, but there were other similar sales like our property available. There are a lot of them that range anywhere between, $70,000 to $80,000. There just were those sales. In retrospect, I actually went back and looked, and they were there. There were a lot of them. But he chose what he chose. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't benefit from Dave's choices, because I did. I benefited hugely. I really did. My wife and I we thought we were the smartest people in the universe. And while I guess the one good thing about this is we were smart enough not to do a cash out refinance, which means that we didn't take any additional cash out of the property. We just changed our terms. So as opposed to a 6.5% interest rate when we initially purchased it, we were able to drop it to 5%, which lowered our payment. Terms and everything were about the same. So there you go. So it was a good thing for us. We were able to keep a little bit more money in our pockets at the end of every month, but that's what happened. Now, here's why that becomes such a bad thing, and I didn't really realize it until later. You guys may remember back in probably, depending on who you ask, starting in 2006 through 2009, this thing called the recession. Well, here in Michigan, it really hit hard, and it hit hard. And it was even more damaging because we had a lot of value inflation. We did. I mean, there's just no way around it. We did. I later found out that I wasn't the only person, a homeowner, that had an overly inflated appraisal. Okay. I was probably the only one who just had one in such a short period, 2 in such a short period of time that were so different that it got me to asking questions. So needless to say, Dave, while attempting to do us a great favor, actually contributed to a lot of the problems that we have today, or that we had back in the day. Now, I'm not saying that Dave didn't make me or my wife go along with the refinance. He didn't do that. Dave didn't make other homeowners take out tens of thousands of dollars of equity from their homes thinking that the value was there. He didn't do that. But what he did do was he did kind of set the stage for that to happen. He at least helped it along. Okay. And it was after a lot of soul searching and a couple of other incidences that I had with real estate related transactions and appraisers. It was those things that made me say, wait a minute, you know what? I have got to get a better understanding of this whole appraisal process, because this thing can really change lives. Because it changed mine. It really did. Like I said, if nothing else, it changed mine. I was able to drop my payment for our condo, you know, $150 a month. That was a positive change. But later on, when we went to sell our condo, everything was in freaking foreclosure. I mean, we held on to that condo for another 3 years after we had moved out. We rented it after we moved out because we had to, not because we wanted to, but because we had to. I mean, values had dropped to the point it was like $120,000 for a freaking great condo. Again, we still owe like 175, and they're selling for 120. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. So we had to hold on for a long period of time, and ultimately we had to work out a deal with the bank. And I think we were honorable in our intentions and what we were trying to do. I'm sure there are some other people that weren't so honorable. That's on them. But ultimately, like I said, 2006, 2009 recession, it was all related. It had to be. It was all related. So that's kind of how I got into appraising. I got into appraising because I had a bad appraisal, a very bad appraisal that actually went in my favor initially in the short term, but really worked against me in the long term. It did. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's happened to. And again, here's the other thing you need to remember. I'm not just talking about one appraisal. Dave was on this particular bank's appraisal panel for decades. He was their preferred appraiser. And I understand why. He was their preferred appraisal because he always gave them exactly what they wanted, even if the facts weren't there. And that's, if you're getting what you want, who doesn't like getting what they want, right? But the long-term ramifications of that, recession, in our case, in all of our cases, I'd rather just have somebody tell me the truth up front, and there you go. So that's kind of our policy. That's what we do as a company. We tell you the truth, good, bad, or indifferent. I want you to know when you are working with Renaissance Appraisal, I want you to know exactly what it is that what the value of your property is, because I want you to be able to make good decisions. I want you to be able to make decisions that you're going to be proud of today and in 10 years from now. Okay, so there you go. Thank you, Dave. If it wouldn't have been for you, I would have never been an appraiser. See you later.